Before a provider does any sort of renewal cycle with its applicants, there are a number of steps that we'd recommend that you do to make sure that that process goes as smoothly as possible. If you, as a provider, are going through a renewal process for the first time, there are a couple things that you should do the first time that you won't have to do in the future. The first thing is to make sure that the application forms in the product are configured to collect the information that you want in the way that you want. And please feel free to contact us here at Online Mooring to configure those applications for you and to walk you through some samples to make sure that it looks right. That is the number one most important thing to do. And also another part of that configuration is to make sure that we are calculating fees correctly. And we'll probably need to run some tests with you with some sample applications to make sure that we're calculating those fees properly in all situations. The second thing that we recommend doing is creating a standard communication template that you want to send out to your applicants whenever you do this renewal process this year and in the future. The way to do that is to go into the communications link within the configuration section of the navigation menu, and on this page you can either type in a new message that you want to send out to everyone, or you can click the templates button in the toolbar, and that'll give you a list of all of your existing communication templates that you can choose from. We do provide some out of the box that you can modify to your liking. For example, you might want to take something like this that's formatted, replace this with a image of your agency's logo or seal. Notice that we can fill in information from the database to customize each letter or email or text message that goes out. And our standard message contains instructions for how to use Online Mooring to do the renewals. But feel free to modify this to include whatever language you think would be appropriate for your community. So those are really the two steps that need to be done the first year only. You can do those in the future if anything changes, if you want to tweak the way the letter looks, if you want to tweak your configuration to make the site behave a little bit differently, or if you change your fees, then that's certainly something to change every year. Alright, so now we'll get into some steps that should be performed every year, regardless of whether it's the first time or not. I'd say the first thing I'd say, this isn't a hard and fast rule, but it almost is, because most of our clients do renewals for their entire harbor all at once. So the first thing is to go to your dashboard and to make sure that everything from the last season has been wrapped up. At the end of your season, you should not see any more applications that are under review, because anything that's under review is something that the provider should have approved or rejected. There should be nothing that's incomplete. Anything that is incomplete should be canceled. Really, the only things that you should see at this point are things that are waitlisted, things that are approved, and things that are expired and rejected and canceled. Anything else indicates something that's still in progress, and if you don't wrap that up, then it's possible that people won't get the renewal notices and be put through the renewal process that they should go through for this coming year. The second thing to do every year is to take a look at the balances that Online Mooring thinks every person owes for their applications. If we were to look at an application, if we were looking at an application, we would see what money is owed. What I could do very quickly to find out who owes what money is to go to the balances report, and this will go through and give me a listing of every action on every application in my harbor that has not been paid in full as of right now. There are two ways to create this report. One is to do the view report option, which creates a PDF file, The other is to do the export data option, which creates a file you can open in Microsoft Excel. So I'm doing the PDF version, and here's a list of all of the applications and the dates that various actions were performed and the amount due. Now, this information may be correct because you've kept the records up to date, but it might not be because it's possible that someone could have sent a check into your office and that check may not have been recorded in our database. It's also possible that some things might show up here because maybe a duplicate action was added. Maybe instead of adding one renewal submitted action for this year, maybe 2 were added, and that might have resulted in a double charge. So I would suggest that every year before you go through the renewal process, that you first review this outstanding balance report and verify that everything that it says is outstanding is truly outstanding to the best of your knowledge. We do have a help page that helps with that. If you click on the help button on the page, it'll bring you a bunch of information about how to review the charges and make sure they're correct, and if they're not, how to correct them. One thing I'll also point out is that one way to double check to make sure that all of the balances are correct might be to do some reconciliation between the payments recorded in online mooring versus the payments that have been recorded in your accounting system. To do that, you can generate the payments report, which would allow you to generate a list of all of the payments that have been made in a certain point during a certain time period. You can view that on the page. You can export it to Excel. By exporting to Excel, it might allow you to easily cross-reference to information from your accounting system. After checking that the balances are correct, the next thing you might want to do every year is just make sure that the configuration is correct. Sometimes our providers' regulations might change or fees might change, and if they have changed, that might require a change in the configuration of the product for you. And if so, please contact Online Mooring, and we'll be glad to take care of those configuration changes for you. The next step is finally getting things ready to go. As part of the application lifecycle, the applicants are typically allowed to submit their renewals for a period of time. And what you'll need to do is to tell Online Mooring who can submit renewals and for what period of time. And the way to do that is by adding an action. If you were, for example, allowing people to submit their waitlist renewal applications, then you would add an action to every one of the applications that would say waitlist renewal allowed. If you had people who had permits already, for example, and you wanted to allow them to renew, then you would add an action called renewal allowed, and then put the dates when they're allowed to submit their renewal application. So you could do it one application at a time, but that could be pretty cumbersome. The other way to do it is in bulk. Typically, you'll want to take everyone who's in a certain status. Like, let's say you wanted to take everyone who was currently approved, who had a permit, and allow them to renew. You can click on this approved link. That'll give you a list of everybody who is approved. And at the bottom of that page, you can click this action button, which will allow you to add the same action to all the people that are all the applications that were in this list. So I'll click the action button. You pick, in this case, they were all approved, which means they had permits, so we want to allow them to renew. And the way things are set up at the moment, we can set up your configuration so that we automatically fill out your effective date and expiration date. The effective date is when people can start filling out their renewals, and the expiration date is when they can stop doing the renewals. What I've found is that Many of our providers have deadlines for their applicants. For example, they might say that the applications have to be filled out by March 1st. But the truth is that there is a grace period, and that they maybe are only, or that they're allowed to submit until April 1st, maybe with a late fee associated with it. What you should put in here for the expiration date is the real last day when you don't, when people will stop being able to submit applications. Let's say the last day that they could submit applications would be March 31st. What you would type in would be March 1st. I'm sorry, April 1st, the next day. If you were to type in March 31st without typing in a time, then it'll stop allowing them to submit applications at midnight at the beginning of the day on March 31st, which would not let them submit their applications at the throughout the day. I mean, alternatively, you could fill out a time of 11:59 p.m. I just find it easier to put in the next day, and at midnight they will be prevented from doing it anymore. So if I hit the save button, what will happen is now Online Mooring will go through a process where it will add that action to all 8 applications that were in my list, and on the appropriate day when the people can start submitting their applications, their status will change, which will allow them to start submitting their application. Once that's done, the next step is going to be to now let all of those people know that they can submit their application and how to do so. So just like we were able to do adding an action to all of those applications in bulk, we're going to be able to communicate to all of those permit holders in bulk. So let's go to everyone who now is in this, let's see, well, let's take, oh, sorry, picked the wrong status there. Let's take everyone who is in a status. You would pick a status of everyone who's in the renewal under review status, and you could now click the communicate button at the bottom of the search results page to send something out to all of those people in that list who are in that status. You can pick the template that you had created earlier, and now you can send it out in one of 3 ways. You can either send it out by email by clicking the email button here. It will only send emails to people who have an email address on file. Alternatively, you could try to send this out as a text message. This particular message is going to be too long for that, so you get an error message saying that it is too long. You have to have people's cell phone numbers on file to do that. You also need to know their cell provider so that we can figure out how to send the text message to the device. And then the third option is for sending a letter out. And you can send a letter out to everyone. It basically creates a mail merge document that you can then print out. In this case, where we have 905 applicants, this mail merge button will generate a 905 page long document that you can print out. When you click that button, you actually have the option of sending it to all 905 people, or just the ones who didn't have email addresses. So that way you can cut down on your paper for the people who have electronic means of being reached. And those are the steps for preparing for a renewal season.